fact that China will not be the power which we think it will be. It might not be that great, power which everyone thought will be, and which will overtake USA and all that. But that is a later day story. Now, when you look at the power of a nation, and especially in respect to China, many factors go into determining the power of a nation. But when you look at China, these six are the ones which I analyze. Analyze the demography, the ideology, the structural issues or the economic structure, which we're going to speak of today, the climate change, geopolitics, and military. Now, these six factors go into making the power of China. For different countries it could be different, but for my this thing, I examined all these. So I first took in the first thing, I started with demography. That was the first part. And in demography, what was it? Fundamentally, a nation is made of people. China has had this one-child policy. It has consigned China to an irrevocable demographic decline. Why? The population is dwindling, abnormal birth rates, it's losing working age population and aging at the fastest rate in human history. Never before. Okay, this is the chart from UN. This is a UN WHO chart. It's not my chart. So I converted it into figures, into a table. Oh, don't worry about the figures of the table. We'll look at the right. Till 2030, there's no major perceptible change, except that the aged people in China will increase. There will be about 1/4 of the population will be 60 plus. But the decline really starts from 2030 to 2040. In that decade, the total population decreases by 55%. Working population reduces by 120 million. And 1/3 of the population, 30% of China, will be aged. Now, this is as per the official figures. As per unofficial figures, this could get preponed. So, virtually till after about 3 to 4 years, you will see the decline setting in. Already, there are alarm bells ringing in China. There is no way to turn the clock back. This two-child policy, three-child policy is not working. It is not an uncertain but a bleak future, as the PRC does not have the tools to cope with this change. People talk of Japanification. In comparison to what's happening in China, Japanification will be a boon. Okay, the second video which I did was on ideology. I would suggest you see both of them. Both of them are available on Gunnershot, right? And right. Now, communism has been the bedrock of the PRC since 1949. The post-Mao era heralded 3 decades of market-oriented growth in which China grew astronomically. But around 2010, there was a fear that CCP was losing control. Democracy, all that was coming in. That was when Xi Jinping was charged by party elders to restore the primacy of the party. What did Xi Jinping do? He resorted to state control and totalitarian power. China is now under the absolute control of CCP. No reforms. Purges are on, galore. All this I've covered in the video on ideology. Xi Jinping has eradicated all centers of power. Any competing center of power, he's finished off. Today, in China, political power trumps economy completely. And there's an increasing importance of security laws, which started way back in October 22 with the 20th Party Congress. Now, if you look at it, which I'll show you later, consolidation of power will continue irrespective of the economic outcomes. Yesterday also, in a speech, in a meeting, he's hinted at this, absolutely in no uncertain terms. When I say he, Xi Jinping. Now, you look at it holistically. Communism is the antithesis of capitalism. There is no case in history where a communist system of government has succeeded economically. Even in our own country, look at Bengal, look at Tripura, look at Kerala. Economically, they're not a success. And you look at the USSR, which broke up. You look at Venezuela. You look at Cuba. There are a number of things. And additionally, till Xi Jinping remains in power, this will not change. the indications very firmly for the past 10 years, ever since Xi Jinping has taken over power, is that the leadership is willing to sacrifice economic growth for the sake of ideology. That is the bottom line. Okay. Now, with this as a background, I'll talk of the economic structure. Now, what you need to understand, yeah, please go ahead.
So before we jump into chapter 3, I had a couple of observations on the parts 1 and 2, General Ravi Shankar.
Yeah,
W- we saw within a period of 6 to 8 months, a lot of the top leadership pass away. And I say pass away in double quotes because it seems suspicious. Of course, one can make the argument that Jiang Zemin was 100 years old. I mean, it's not exactly, I mean, organ failure is typically at that age. And then we saw the unfortunate demise of Li Keqiang. Li Keqiang was the one person who was sort of like, he knew economics, he knew how to steer the country, if in case he became the general secretary, which was what Hu Jintao wanted. That's all the, palace intrigues. And we all saw how Hu Jintao was unceremoniously marched out of the Congress, this the plenum, whatever they call it, uh, plenum or whatever.
Plenum.
So,
Yeah.
so General Ravi Shankar, uh, you do you think? See, Elmer, my good friend, has said that he doesn't think that Li Keqiang actually got pumped off. That he actually died of natural causes. That in October they can have temperature changes. He gave me a very convincing explanation. I don't know your thoughts on whether Li Keqiang was eased out of the way because Xi Jinping may be cocking a snook at US, saying that you guys are trying to cause a coup. Because remember the rocket force, the defense minister, all these people are all together. They all come from the same rocket force. So do you think this was something like a throwing the gauntlet and say, now I'm eliminating everybody else? What are you going to do? Sir, over to you.
Well, possible. He's just consolidating power, and it's possible, right? It's highly possible. Whether whether it's feasible or not, he's consigned China to a future which is bleak. That's the point.
Yes.
The major
Yes.
point is that which we have to understand. It only contributes to what I'm trying to put across, right? So we'll take this thing across, and we'll see the economic structure, which is the
Yeah.
issue which we're going to talk of today. Okay, now those of you who are new, and those of you who are watching through the pre-Gurus broadcast, please subscribe to Ghana Short if you're interested in China. Right? I know pre-Gurus won't be able to cover China the way I'm covering, and from a
Absolutely, sir.
completely Indian
Yeah.
perspective, right?
Yeah.
And for example, day after tomorrow, I'm going to do a program on superpowers, past, present, and future. And down the line, fifth, sixth, I'm going to do on a program on will China attack Taiwan, based on inputs from within China and, of course, outside comparison. And you see, there's a mirror image of both. It's very interesting. So, what I would suggest is subscribe. You will find a lot of value in this channel. Okay. The first thing is, sometime last year, Japan Center of Economic Research came out with these three sets of graphs. This is a forecast by thing that you see the rightmost graph, which says the Chinese economy will never overtake the US economy. It's only going parallel. The actuality might be worse. It was earlier estimated that by 2030, the Chinese economy will overtake the US economy. But the Japanese, who I feel are very balanced in the way they are looking at things, have now forecast, and many have followed this uh, later. Now, this article by Adam Posen came out sometime in August in Foreign Affairs called The End of China's Economic Miracle. Now, this again was echoed by a lot of people. It was also echoed by Paul Krugman, who writes in New York Times, who's an economics professor and a Nobel laureate, plus Michael Pettis, who teaches in Tsinghua University and who's, So, all these people spoke of this, but I picked this article out because about 1 month back, not even 1 month back, but 15 days back, Adam Posen gave out an interview talk in Asia Society, and that video is online on YouTube. All of you can go and spoke of it. He spoke of the economic structure of China. He said China has finished off with the low-hanging fruit of urbanization. Urbanization means a lot of people, labor came to the city and built the economy. That has peaked. There's no more people from the city to come, from the rural area to come to the city and take the economy forward. Now, he also speaks of the imbalance in the Chinese economic structure. He speaks of the demographic factor, which is actually connected with the economic structure. That is why, if to get the full hang of this, you have to go back to the demographic part one, then do the ideology, and then come here. You will get a very clear view of what's happening in China. Dwindling population. It's very simple. If there are 10 people in a house, the household income is more. If there are only 2 people in a house, the household income is less, and that's GDP. As simple as that. And the ideological factor of a state-controlled economy has limits the growth of the Chinese economy, and it warps the Chinese economic structure. Right? It warps because the policies which come out of this ideological factor skew the normal economic structure. Then there's an important thing of the COVID policy effect. Their COVID policy effect, what was it? They said they had low-tech vaccines. Because of low-tech vaccines, they had to go into isolation and they broke up the manufacturing system. And because of their ideology, they did not allow import of good vaccines from outside. Ideology. As a result, their people started looking at alternate sources of supply, and the supply chains are now rolling out otherwise. Resultantly, the manufacturing sector within China has broken up. Once the manufacturing sector in China has broken up, jobs have got lost. Once jobs are lost, people don't have money to spend. Once people have no money to spend, people have no money to pay for their mortgages and all that. The property is going up in grabs. All that. We'll cover that. So there's a chain effect. That's why I said those circles which I showed are all interrelated, right? But now today we'll continue with the economic stuff. Now, when you look at the economy, economic structure, when you look at the structural economy, generally, economy consists of manufacturing sector, it consists of infrastructure and real estate sector, exports, consumption, commodities, services, and information and technology. Only place where China is up to it is in information and technology. Okay, the rest, manufacturing is broken up today. Infrastructure and real estate is a millstone around its neck because it has gone past the time where it can get a return of investment. In fact, this sector is about 30% of Chinese economy, and this is sick. This is real sick. Exports have collapsed. Every day there's a lack of the exports. Because if exports have collapsed, manufacturing is getting affected even worse. Services, very surprisingly, China doesn't have the kind of services even India doesn't has. The services part of the Chinese economy is just about 30 odd percent, whereas in India it's gone to 50 to 60%. Consumption is not happening because people don't have money. And if consumption doesn't happen, the economy doesn't go further. And China is the commodity deficient nation. It doesn't have energy, it doesn't have fuel, right? And it is food deficient. So there are no commodities. This has to be imported. So if you look at it, the Chinese economic structure is warped. Compare it with USA. USA has a balanced effect of everything. In fact, if you look at it, the Indian economy is better balanced than this. In fact, the Indian economy is far more balanced than this. Today, we are a food surplus nation. You might think that this economy is small, but it's more balanced. In China, the economy is skewed. Now you look at it, 30% of this economy is dead economy. I call it non-productive economy. Infrastructure and real estate. It is big. There are a whole lot of ghost towns and cities. They are there, but what are they giving to the Chinese economy? Nothing. The GDP doesn't matter much. What is the return on that GDP is zero or near there. Okay. And that is shown very nicely in this, cartoon by Rebel Pepper, where he's shown that, Xi Jinping is looking for consumption and it's not happening. And it's not happening at all. I'll prove it by, data, which is, I won't say data, news which has come out from Chinese portals. Okay. China has over relied on real estate, infrastructure, high local debt, inefficient state owned enterprises, and low end manufacturing. This is known. I'm not saying anything new. The export driven model made China the hub of the world. But this entire model has run its course. It needs a change. It needs a change. And Michael Pettis, like I said, who's a professor in Tsinghua University, is also in Stimson Center and many other think tanks affiliated in USA, has said China has 5 paths. Right? What are the 5 paths? China can stay on its current path and keep getting large amounts of non-productive investments, which continue to drive the country's debt burden up indefinitely. That means do nothing. Only the debt will go up and there'll be no return of income. As it is, the rails, high-speed rails are running at only 25% capacity with no return of income. And ghost cities. Both these will give you the larger. Now, China can reduce the large amount of non-productive investment on which it relies to drive growth and replace it with productive investment in forms of like new technology. New technology is what Xi Jinping is aiming, AI, cyber, all that, space. But these are high risk things. Now, unless these technologies are exported, there's no return of income for China. The consumption of these technologies within China is poor. So he's playing a high risk game. Whether it will succeed, we don't know. And the indications so far are that it will not succeed. But because these technologies by themselves, which China is producing, have a question mark. In any case, with the sanctions from China, from USA on all these technologies and the West, who are to buy these technologies, who are the only ones capable of buying these technologies, this is at risk. Now, China can reduce the large amount of non-productive investment on which it relies to drive growth and replace it with rising consumption. It cannot. How can it, like I said, people don't have jobs. If a chap doesn't have job, how will he consume? He can consume dal, roti, chawal, that's about all. But the kind of consumption they're looking at is buying high-end cars, buying flats, buying, expensive stuff, investing in shares and all that. That's not going to happen. So China can reduce the large amount of non-productive investment on which it relies to drive growth and replace it with a growing trade surplus by manufacturing. They have done it by manufacturing, BRI and diplomacy. That's not happening. And with Ukraine war, and with Ukraine war, irrespective of what we talk of the Russia-China cooperation and all that, the Russian economy can't absorb the Chinese produce. With the Middle East now going up in flames, and if there is a wider war in West Asia, that market also will go. And that BRI goes under risk. In any case, BRI doesn't give return of investment. So the diplomacy which Xi Jinping spoke of, Iran, Saudi Arabia, rapprochement and all that is at risk today. And it will not feed back. But China is trying all three and absolutely failing at this point of time. Right. China can reduce the large amount of non-productive investment on which it relies to drive growth and replace it with nothing. Do nothing. Just stop, withdraw. In which case, growth would necessarily slow sharply. But this has political problems. If Chinese GDP goes down, Xi Jinping will be out of power. So they have to pump prime the GDP with false figures or false investments. What is China doing about it? That's the best part. I mean, one might say, oh, China can do this, China can do that, China can do anything else. But what is China doing? That's the question, actually. And that, I got this article in China Daily, in which the chief economist of the Bank of China He is opined that income distribution, better income distribution can create demand and drive consumption. What is better income distribution? Common prosperity. How will it be done? No one knows so far. So that is not taken off, and then no one knows what is going to happen in this common prosperity business. Okay. The second line is important. China should adopt measures to stabilize growth by stimulating investment, especially infrastructure investment and real estate investment. So he wants this fellow, who's the chief economist of Bank of China, has opined that more investment and more real estate. These are the cause of China's troubles today. China still hopes to revive and maximize on exports, which it obviously if you see American imports of Chinese equipment or the Western import of Chinese equipment, it is going down. That is why the manufacturing has taken a hit. In fact, the next line is mine. More the things change, the more they remain the same. Now, the important thing, the Chinese are not convinced at all, politically or economically, that they need a different model. Hence, they don't have a plan to change. Now, if they do change and go through a transformation, it will be anything between 5 to 10 years before some results are seen and the economy will come up. The old model is failing and China doesn't have a new model, in which case the economic structure will not change. If the economic structure doesn't change, China's economy will not grow. It will remain a big economy, it will not have great growth. They will publish figures. Already this year they're saying 5% growth. But what is that 5% growth? Is it useful growth? Is a question mark. Just think, you are growing at 5%. Even if you're growing at 5%, you should be able to create enough jobs for people. But people are losing jobs and people are becoming poor. Okay. Now you look at the cycle. When Xi Jinping started in 10 years back, he started with this anti-corruption drive, BRI, and he promised to double the economy by 2035. That's not happening. Then he came out, Z thought के साथ he brought out this business of dual circulation. Dual circulation wanted to drive up consumption. And this dual circulation theory came out 4 years back. For the past 4 years, no consumption has gone up. In fact, dual circulation, no one talks of today. Then he spoke of made in China. After what has happened to Huawei, made in China is at risk. That is why he's trying through the BRI. He's now talking of digital Silk Road and this road and that road through the BRI. Even there, the takers are very few. Then he started this new development concept of state control. He spoke of common prosperity. Then the thrust towards state-owned enterprises. Then, but at the same time, what did he do? He broke up the educational technology, financial technology, and property sectors. He broke it, actually. Alibaba and all that. I mean, Jack Ma was going to be bigger than Bill Gates. And today, what does Jack Ma do? He teaches teachers in some obscure place in village in China. So, and these sectors were the biggest employers in China. And these sectors have now done mass, layoffs and salary cuts. That is why the average Chinese chap is poor. Then came the 20th Party Congress last year, where he spoke of security and technology. Okay. Today he's talking of privatization, food security, and energy security, but he's not talking of new energy systems, but he's talking of coal-based energy. He's going back. He's turning the clock back. China is food insecure, and that is a major problem which again skews the economic structure. Privatization he wants to do, but people don't have trust to come back and invest money. We'll see this a little later. That's coming up. Now, if you look at the Chinese model today China at the top, they talk of diplomacy, technology, and military. These are the three thrust areas of Xi Jinping. But the problems are in between. Real estate, infrastructure, exports, private sector, jobs, consumption, food insecurity, and healthcare. Healthcare in China is the one of the worst. We think it is good, but it is useless, and that was proven during COVID. And I'm not talking of something which is my inference. I'm talking of something which is a fact given out by the Chinese media. And these facts is something which I'll present to you in the course of this entire set of episodes. Some, as far as the economy is concerned, we'll do it today. Climate is the next, episode. Maybe we'll take it about 5-10 days later. But then this entire brick wall which I've built is standing on two weak pillars: demography, which is declining, and climate change, which is going to hit China the max. Why China and why not India? We'll cover it in the next episode. Okay, now I'll take you through a set of articles, headlines of South China Morning Post. Why South China Morning Post? South China Morning Post highlights a few issues because it's got some freedom. It's come based in Hong Kong. And if you look at People's Daily or PR, Xinhua and all that, you will find complete party line. There's nothing wrong in China as per those outlets. But here at least they come out. Now here, Xi Jinping goes around step up pace of technological breakthroughs. Xi Jinping urges. This is his favorite theme every month, almost every 10-15 days, which indicates that China's technology is poor. That is why he keeps talking of it. Then he talks of he's these days talking of appeals to decade-old mantra of reform and opening up as economy slows and foreign investors ponder leaving. The foreign investors are stuck, especially Germany. The European investors are stuck. So are a lot of American investors. They're all trying to get out of the Chinese system. But it's not going to be easy. Then, of course, they've invested in this. Why at this headline? Can China's high-speed railways get its economy back on track? It can't. But they're still going ahead with it. It's absolutely counterintuitive to what is required to be done. Okay. Then, of course, the real estate debt crisis prompts IMF warning of widening economic damage. IMF has gone on record. If you don't resolve your property sector, your economy will get damaged. There's no doubt about it. They also know about it. Okay. Now you look at Evergrande. Evergrande, that the owner has been arrested. Restructuring, they're not able to do. If they don't do, look at the amount of people who are going to suffer. And the thing about the Chinese thing is, property thing is, you buy the flat upfront without getting anything. You book a flat, you pay full money by taking mortgage from someone. And this Evergrande fellow has taken money from so many people and spent it wherever. He has invested it wherever he wanted, and that has not come. And he doesn't have money left. He can't repay the people whom he has promised flats. And so people don't have money and they're saddled with mortgages. That is why consumption is not going up. Okay, it's a vicious circle in which the people are caught. The fuckers of today are not the Communist Party bosses, but the Aam Aadmi in China, who is almost in doldrums. Okay. Then, of course, Country Garden is caved in, which is the second big property, conglomerate. It was supposed to be the poster boy of Chinese real estate sector. That's also caved in and completely, irrevocably. I've just spoken of Evergrande and Country Garden, but there's so many others. Fantasia, BAO, they all defaulted. Most of them have defaulted. Okay. Now the talk is the next subprime crisis brewing in China's property market? And this article is just about 15 days old. Not very old. Why subprime crisis? Because in the Chinese financial system, they have taken all these loans and securitized them and sold them as bonds. Who has bought them? Of course, a large number of people outside China have bought them because it's a roller coaster. Same thing which happened to JP Morgan and all that which happened in 2008. But a lot of people have bought these bonds who are normal Chinese citizens. So they're holding useless bonds. Whether subprime crisis happens in China or not is irrelevant. The arm Chinese man on ground is going to lose. He's got a mortgage and he's got useless bonds. How will he buy a fridge or a car or another flat? And if even he wants to buy a flat, who will give it to him? These are the big questions which, the seamy underside of China is now coming out. That is the weak structure. And like I said, people make the economy. If people are not there, there is no economy. And that population is dwindling and they're getting poorer. The average China man today is getting poorer. Okay, look at this. Today, recruiters also have a problem in China because they don't have jobs. There's a lack of confidence in companies and job seekers. Everyone, all around, there's a gloom. Again, all this is not something which I'm saying. I've just taken about 15-20. You go to South China Morning Post, take 1 month's collection on a particular topic, and you'll see the kind of gloom which is there in South China Morning Post. 3 years back, you take the headlines of South China Morning Post, you will see everything was rosy. China was to be the next superpower. But today, it's hardly that. No one talks of China as a superpower there. Okay. Okay. Then there's an issue of migrant labor. There are about 6 million plus people, or I don't know how many, it might be more, migrant labor who are in China, who, though they reside in the cities, are not part of the cities, they are in the rural guys. And these people are having severe problems of underemployment. They can't go back to the rural areas, they can't stay in the cities. Right? They're worse off. So this might lead to a social instability in China. And if that happens, then the economic structure revival is very difficult. I mean, that's the point. Ultimately, the whole idea is to look at the economic structure today. Okay, there's yet another phenomenon which is happening. Why is the economic structure, skewed? Because the economic structure is skewed, Chinese investors are scrambling to sell overseas properties. It's in the economic conditions are shaky. You see this picture where the yuan has got wings and is flying away. And this is from Nikkei Asia, where it says net outflow of funds from China hits a 7-year high in September. People are withdrawing money from China, left, right, and center. Okay, it will not collapse. Let me again reiterate, it will not collapse. But it will not be a great economy either. Then, of course, their own analysts, if you go into this article, it is all Chinese economists who say the economic risks will intensify in 2024. In fact, today it's better days as Chinese economy is tapering off. Hereafter, property market, local government debts are huge. Every local government is in debt today, which they can't repay. And the central government, for some reason, is not coming to their aid. So, in the Chinese economic system, in the financial system, debt is taking money from one head to putting into the other. China can do it, but there are costs for that, which China is not prepared to undertake. Okay, then of course, this is something from the International Monetary Fund. China's household debt creeps upward, approaching warning line of International Monetary Fund. There is 65% is the debt line, warning line. China is at about 62%. 62% of Chinese households are in debt. And without jobs, they can't repay the debt. And if they are in debt, how much debt can China write off? And if they are in debt and they don't have jobs, how will they consume? You see the vicious circle which I'm saying. And I'm not talking of, I'm inferring everything from what has come out from their sources, not my sources or international sources. Okay, this is something else. This is Adam Posen's, article in which he says the household savings in China is high. It's the highest when you look at in every other country. It's a red line which has gone up. Why are they saving? Because the future is uncertain. Naturally, you will also save if tomorrow your economy is crashing. If you don't have a job, and you don't know, especially NRIs who are living in USA will understand if they have to. I'm sure no NRI who's under a change of job will go in to buy a house or buy a new car. He will say, "Yeah, till I get a job and my economy is satisfactory, I will not do. Till then, I'll save." Same thing is happening in China. Okay, right. And then, of course, Nikkei Asia, this is very fine. I mean, this article came over last week only. Dear Japan, asks, China asks, do you have any jobs for us? Now, Chinese are looking all around for jobs. Because of the geopolitical issues, they're not getting jobs there outside. No one is trusting China. That's the problem. Okay, this is day before yesterday's article. China's debt-saddled regions owe far more than they can pay back without Beijing's help. Right? There are certain countries, certain regions within China which have constructed so much infrastructure by taking debt, they can never repay it back, and that infrastructure is never going to give return on investment. And Beijing is not able to bail them out. And these are the poor provinces of China. These are the Bihars of China. Okay, this is yesterday's article. China's manufacturing and activity contracts in October, underlining economic uncertainty. The next line is important. China's manufacturing purchasing index fell to 49.5, down from 50.2. If the manufacturing index is below 50, it is contraction, deflation. That's the thing. It has come down from 50.02, which is just above, down. So manufacturing is contracting. This is not my data. This is international data which China has published from Chinese sources. Okay. Now they are also talking of it's time to trim the bloated state sector, because everything is going into the inefficient state sector. These are all problems which China has. These are all indications that their economy is completely skewed. Okay. The Pathfinder, which is an international organization, they say economic malaise boils down to a failure of reform. Failure of reform is going to be endemic because Xi Jinping is not going to reform the system. That's the fundamental. Okay. Look at this. There is a new party organ which has been established 10 days back. What does it do? New party finance organ gets to work while concerns over stability loom. So there's a completely set of party apparatchiks who are going to control the economy. They've messed up the economy so far, they're only going to do further. Because they have to follow Xi Jinping's line, and Xi Jinping wants state control. He doesn't want privatization. He talks privatization but looks at state control. Okay? This is again end of September, right? Beijing keeps focus on security, corruption, and worst case scenarios. This is what Xi Jinping's mantra is. If you keep focus on security and corruption, which Shreyaji also spoke of sacking of the foreign minister, sacking of the defense minister, sacking of generals, they've sacked a whole lot. If you go into the previous episode on ideology, I said how many people they've sacked in the banking sector, how many party people they've sacked. They've even put a party, a regional party head, uh, given him death sentence. There's a huge thing going on in China, and it has been going on for the past 10 months. It has now increased. Okay. Now, this is my way of looking at this. It was widely believed that the Chinese were winning the war on global dominance without fighting, as per Sun Tzu. In my opinion, these days the beleaguered Chinese are losing the war without fighting. They don't have to fight, they're losing it on their own. In my way of looking at it, the best person to continue to rule China is Xi Jinping. He'll ensure Indian victory. The Chinese model resembles the Soviet one, which collapsed overnight without a trace. Now, I'm making a big statement. Okay, what is the Soviet model? It is this, what I put out. Corruption, communist opacity hid hollowness, corruption, loss of faith in communist ideology, dismal standards of living, elite infighting, rigid USSR system which could not reform. Gorbachev wanted reform but could not reset the Stalinist model back to Leninist principles. Personalized politics, which stunted institutions. Inefficient government owned factories could not produce what the people wanted, and what the people wanted was not produced. Supply simply did not match demand. Soviet Union could not service its debt, and it is an over-militarized economy. All these factors, if you see, at least 50 to 60% today apply to China, right? So this is where I finish today's economic structure. Sri Ayarji will have a few questions from you. You can ask me, and then I'll take questions from others.
Yes, sir. This window dressing of their economy has been done in many ways and for many years. My question to you, General Ravi Shankar, they were doing it in plain sight. For example, this is laughable when I say this, but it is true. China used to print four copies of every note they printed. There's a 100 yuan bill with a certain serial number. You could find four of those bills, exact same replicas.
Yeah,
So
possible.
if you no, we actually have a picture somewhere in our archives. We have shown this many times. This is from a person who was on a work visit to Shanghai. He goes to an ATM and he withdraws 500 yuan bills. Four of those come out with the same serial number, and he's scared. He thought there was a mistake. He goes to bank after bank, and they don't want to do anything with it. We don't know. We are not set up to do anything. So these kinds of things, and so he had to bring it back to India. That's how he had those bills. So the point I'm trying to make, General Ravi Shankar, is this was something that was known to the West. How is it that they allowed China to ping or they put their yuan exchange rate, peg it at between 6.5 to 7, more or less, right? So essentially, when you make four copies of your currency, that means it's essentially 26 to 28 yuans per dollar. But the West allowed them to keep it this way. Why do you think they did that?
It suited the West. That's all. It suited the West to not look at things because, see, at the end of the day, the West was making money. Take the case of Apple, iPhone.
Yeah, yeah,
The iPhone is, made in China, right? Uh, you buy an iPhone, say, for about $1,000. The actual cost, everything of that iPhone, which China comes out of China, is just about 200 odd dollars. I might be off on my figures, but that's where it is. 200, $250. The profit to China was on the $250. Apple made profit on the $750 for wherever it is, right? Which is the difference between the selling price and the manufacturing price. So it was convenient. And this thing you can, apply to any other uh, item. So it was being made cheaply there. China was getting its cut, but the American system was and the Western system was getting far more money till the time the Chinese started undercutting that through IPR theft, etc., etc., to manufacture their own technology. That is where the problem started. And now, of course, it's out in the open. So that's how it is. As simple as that. And that is why, without the buying power of the West, the Chinese economy can't survive. It will survive the way it is. I mean, but it will not grow. Yeah.
so many say in the US-China relations, the nuclear option is for United States to take the Hong Kong dollar off of the peg. See, most of the business still
Yeah,
from
I
the West.
understand.
Yeah. But again, US is hesitant to do that. Why do you think that is happening?
You say, look, that will destabilize all financial markets. Slowly, they'll pull the plug out. And that started already, actually. Actually speaking, if you see the Chinese yuan has been going down, the Chinese shares have been, collapsing. They're trading very low. So that's slowly happening. As slowly people have started disinvestment. In any case, where you're committed, there you cannot pull out. New investment is not going into China. The new investment into China is all hot money. It could be own Chinese money going back, if at all. But there's a whole lot of Chinese money which is going out. That's how it
Well,
is.
last observations are not a question. Many states in the United States, like for example, Republican-run states, have made it illegal for China to acquire land in United States. This is a way to kind of poison pill, if you will, sir. But the democratic places are still open to it. For example, California. If I look around in
Yeah,
Bay Area,
allows. Yeah, a
it's
lot of people are coming there to buy
yeah,
flats there.
all over the place. And Trump tried to stop it to some extent. Again, now Trump is no longer in business, and Biden administration doesn't seem to want to do anything about it. This augurs well for the seller. Like for example, if somebody were to sell their
Yeah,
property in US, in California, they can make some profit out of it. But for how long is the question, sir? Your thoughts on how long this binging is going to happen?
look, the rich Chinese want an alternative. The people from China who have money, who are talented, are making their nest eggs wherever. They're making it not only in USA, they're going even to Europe, they're going even to Malaysia, they're going to Singapore, they're going to Australia also. So it's up to the American government. It's up to the American government how much they can, allow these people to come and settle there and all that. That's something which I can't even. I mean, I'm very clear that in India, then none of them are allowed. They are being kicked out. Slowly, their investments are being wound up and they're being investigated. Uh, a few companies have been, Oppo and all these people have been told to wind up, right? And we are very clear in India, but I don't know. US, it depends on US government what it does and
Yes,
how
indeed.
US
Yes,
government
indeed.
sees
Yeah.
this whole story. Yeah.
Thank you so much, General Ravi Shankar.
So
Those are the questions I had. I think we have a few questions
yeah,
from our
we'll take the questions. Yeah, we'll take those questions. What about G2 countries, US and USA, US and China cooperation to stop multipolar order? Some economics, economists talk of secret US China cooperation to even tank UN euro currency. Extending my question, how is G2 going to impact geopolitical in India? G2 is a dead concept. G2 is a concept which Chinese floated. It's not the American concept. The Americans have not accepted G2. G2 means that China is a pure competitor, is a pure power, which Chinese Americans will never allow. So that's out of question. Okay, okay. Will China will Z attack China? I will
Taiwan.
speak of
Yeah.
Z attacking China when in a separate episode, so we will not take it to this. Yeah, right. Yeah. Thanks a lot, Latya Pachpan, Hatke Bachpan, Harkate Bachpan. Uh, Namaskaram, General Shankar and Talaiva Sriji. Oh, you become a Talaiva. We should also look at the fact that whatever China is doing is by design. AI robots are doing everything now. Less population is more order. I don't agree with you. I don't agree with you. Some robotics will be there, some AI is being used, but not everywhere. If you look at the misery of, see, AI and all that will not replace. If you replace all these with people, there are still 1.4 billion people. Where will they get jobs from? How will they survive? So it's a catch-22 situation. And if you think China is going to prepare for day after tomorrow for 10 years hence, and this economic structure is going to remain skewed for the next 10 years. And you have to look at it that you can't change. You can't change. The Communist Party is not so good. If the Communist Party was so good, they should have reversed the demographic decline 10 years back. 10 years back, the World Bank told them this, you're going to get into a problem. And this is in a beautiful study by a joint study by World Bank and the State Council of China. This study was done, dusted, and given to Xi Jinping when he came to power. They couldn't do it then. How will they do it now? Okay. Now, let me say, does India have military bases in Bhutan? If not, yeah, no, no, we have a military establishment, Indian military training team in Bhutan. Over and above that, we send one infantry battalion group to Bhutan for 6 months in a year when the passes are open. So we already have something, so don't worry. Okay, I think most analysts are ignoring path-breaking technologies or CRISPR, artificial womb, robotics, etc., that will help China and USA bounce back. Why ignore them? I'm not ignoring them. For one moment, I'm not ignoring them. Okay. But the overall, with all this you put together, their economic structure is going to be weak. As simple as that. I mean, that's the basic. It is going to remain skewed. Big economies don't change so fast. They've gone on a path for the past 15 years. What will they do with all those ghost cities which have come up? What will they do with all those high-speed rails which are there, which are not going to go away, not going giving more than 25% return on investment? What will they do with all the kindergarten schools which are closing down? What will they do with all the BRI sick entities? Look at Hambantota port. For the next 100 years, they've got it. But there's no trade in Hambantota port. And that Matala airport, which is next to it, also doesn't give anything. So BRI doesn't give you ROI. Your high-speed relays don't give you ROI. How will AI give you ROI? And who will buy out of that AI? So you have to understand technology in its whole thing. Don't overrate technology. People started overrating technology as the panacea for all ills, including military. What happened to Israel? Same thing will happen to economy if you overrate technology. Okay, double the economy, meaning 18 trillion to become. Yeah, that is what he wanted. I agree with JBJP. What you say that is if 18 trillion figure is to be trusted in the first place. That's not the point. But he gave out a statement 5 years, 6 years back that he will double the economy by 2035. It's not going to happen. Why is it not going to happen? You also seem to be saying the same thing as I'm saying. Why is it not going to happen? Because the economy structure is skewed. It can't come back. And that is what the Japan Council of Economic Research says. Look, folks, please understand. This is an analysis I am doing with multiple inputs, facts. This is not my kalpana. This is not rhetoric. Okay, this is not क्या बोलते हो big talk. This is not false talk. All this is facts. I have written an article on this in Eurasian Times with references. And this is not the only article I have written. Please go to Gunnershot and you'll see about 200 articles on China. I started talking of this it'll hit the economic world 3 years back, referenced. And I've written in major, in Financial Express in India, print, Eurasian Times. All these articles I've written in public. This is not something which I'm saying today. This is not a revelation of God which I'm saying today. And my sources are Chinese. The base sources are Chinese. Okay. So why not believing what the Chinese are talking of themselves? That fellow is worried that he's got a problem. You say, no, you don't have a problem. You are still a superpower. Can we be bigger fools than that? You just believe China is a superpower. That's the point I'm trying to bring about. Believe that that country is going down. Believe that China is no more a superpower. In fact, if you look at it, India is a bigger role to play in future. On that, I'll talk about some other day. I'll see why India is rising and why India's rise cannot be stopped. CRG will do this one of these days.
Yes, sir. Absolutely. Looking forward.
Yeah. A lot of comments. Okay. Why is PLA amassing Raja Mukherjee? Wait for the military component of this story. I'll talk about this. Okay. General Sir and P Guru Sir, please explain in detail $53 trillion Chinese debt figure given by Sumit Peer. I don't know what Sumit Peer did and where did he get this $53 trillion debt. I really don't know, so I will not like to comment on it.
Now, sir, Sumit comes on our channel, and we will
That's
analyze
okay.
it in more detail. Yeah, we'll give you the data.
No, you are, because I have not heard of this. So
Right.
this is an unsubstantiated fact. I will not comment on it, and in fact, I doubt it also. Okay. So USA and China economic ties has deep interdependence, and US election coming soon. Will China take risk dealing to Chinese economy now? Look, the European economy and the Chinese economy and the US economy are deeply interlinked. There's no doubt. They can't delink. They can't, you know. So what are they doing? They're talking of de-risking. What is part of de-risking? De-risking is no more fresh investments. And where investments have run their course, finish it off, terminate broadly, and realign supply chains. That is happening. They can't de-link. They're too intertwined. As of now, there are talks going on between US and China to continue trading, to revive trading. Why they want to revive trading? Because today, at this point of time, both can't survive without the other. I'm talking of survive. They've come to that stage where they have to survive. 3 months back, the Chinese were not prepared to talk to the Americans. Today, they're talking to the Americans. Why are they talking? Because they've come to the wrong bottom. They've gone to the extent of inviting the Chinese, the US military for their own. There is some military dialogue happening in China. They said, please come and talk. 3 months back, they refused to speak to Lloyd Austin. So there is a step down by China. Those of you who don't understand geopolitics, if you look at the figures, you look at the thing holistically, you will see that China is slowly coming down. And it is at risk in West Asia. This Israel Hamas war is put it at great risk. If it doesn't get energy from there tomorrow, end of story. The China model will completely collapse overnight. And there is a problem. And no one is listening to China there. Because the kingpin there is USA. USA has got its foot in Qatar. It has taken one aircraft carrier there, Dwight Eisenhower, and it is going to control that entire Middle East and end of Chinese influence there. So you have to understand these things in the larger context. Okay, can China, with all its miseries, push bankrupt Park into a tussle? No, no, all this is our imagination. Nothing will happen. Okay, great presentation and given on China by General. As always, no, it's also by thanks to PIRG also. Right. The rest. Okay, Anand. Do the Chinese have the expertise after decades of American investment in the high-tech sector to innovate and supply electronic products to global markets and to their own military sector? A very balanced question. First and foremost, they probably have the capability, they've developed the capability to innovate and supply electronic products. But who'll buy them? The West doesn't want to buy them. The West is actively ensuring that they do their own shoring. That is why the ISET comes into play. ISET comes into play. What is ISET? ISET is Initiative for Critical and Emerging Technologies between India and USA. Transfer. Okay, which happened when Modi ji went and met President Biden 3 months back.
State visit, during the state visit, yeah.
State visit, yeah, state, ISET. If ISET kicks in, that means they want to get off China. Their own military sector, though they started, there's something which I will talk of when we speak whether China can attack Taiwan. I'll do it whenever I get the time to do it. They have suddenly realized all that high-tech stuff might not win the war, might not achieve their military aims. They've seen what has happened to Russia, what is happening to Israel. So what's the use of having all that high-tech stuff which doesn't work and without no experience? So that is why their economic structure will not right. Why I'm taking on this is because it is the sum total of all this makes Chinese comprehensive national power, and that is going down. It is not economic power alone. When you talk of China, you have to look at the Chinese comprehensive national power, and that, unfortunately, is shrinking. Or rather, fortunately for us, is shrinking. Okay. Ask Major. First and foremost, I'm not a major, I'm a lieutenant general. So, Ragul, understand when you're asking questions to army officers, know what your army is. Okay. Okay. You just don't use any prefix to any person. Okay. Whether China can use Pakistan as proxy, well, it is already using Pakistan as proxy. Yeah, isolated China or integrated China is more problematic. Both ways it is problematic. It will remain problematic to everyone till such time Xi Jinping is in power and they continue with this hardcore communism, that ideology. Till then, it will remain a problem for everyone. Okay, Sai Kiran. Isn't American power greatly weakened because of Ukraine crisis and Israel-Gaza conflict? Isn't China? No, I don't think so. I don't think. In fact, if you see, because of the Ukraine crisis, American economy has revived. The opposite has happened. So, I mean, you have to understand the larger picture, right? Gaza conflict will affect everyone. If the oil prices increase, there's an oil shock, everyone's economy will go down. But US economy will not go down because US is a net exporter of energy. Please understand, relatively, US exports energy. China imports 80% of its energy. So who's going to stand? Who's going to gain? So you have to understand this in larger context. Okay, right. Okay, Gudank XP. Ask 3G. Chinese genetics spliced DNA of fetuses and increased all this. Look, this is a different story. We'll talk of it later. It has
These
nothing
things
to do
won't
with.
pan out, guys. Artificial intelligence is greatly exaggerated. I'll tell you when artificial intelligence was actually used successfully. When Google was starting out, Google was not the first search engine. It was not even the seventh or eighth search engine. But what Google figured out correctly was whenever you say something, like for example, the word box could be many things. But Google knew which box you were referring to based on your history of searching for a certain thing. So what they used to say was, you can have there'll be a search box and they'll have something called I am feeling lucky. If you click that, you got a more nuanced answer as to what it was that you are searching for. That was the application of artificial intelligence by Google for its own search engine. That part is done very
Yeah.
well. But Chat GPT, all these things, right? They'll say, okay, I can write an essay for you on Pakistan. I tried a couple of times. I used Bard, which is Google's. I used Chat GPT. You know what? After two iterations, people immediately know that this is what this guy didn't write it himself. He got it from Chat GPT. Because
Chat
if
GPT.
you ask that question, you are going to get the same answer. So that originality, that using the right word, the right sentence in the right form, that's what gets the point across. That's what writing is all about. So those things are all lost. And
Yeah, I
supposing
agree
you
with
have
you
a,
completely.
yeah, if you have one bad component and you have a robotized manufacturing line, when are you going to find out that you have a bad component? When it hits the customer, when everything starts coming back? See, this is extreme thinking. It's not possible, guys. Many things you need a human touch.
Yeah. Okay, the last question. The Mauryan ruled over the Han heartland and ancient China. I believe over the centuries, Chinese have messed it up. Look, we'll talk about this when day after tomorrow, when I talk about superpowers, past, present, and future. Right? We'll talk about all this heartland business and all that. So wait till then. I finished with all the questions. Yeah. Okay, last question. Lieutenant General P.R. Shankar, sir, how do you delete communism in USA, China, Bharat completely? You can't. We are democracies. People are free to choose what they want. Okay. You have any views on this?
No, sir, you're absolutely right, sir. Freedom of speech is absolute. But the thing is, there are some limits. You cannot, like for example, I'm seeing this nonsense happening in campuses across US, where people are blindly supporting Palestine and saying that basically what they're saying is what Hamas did to Israel was right. You can't condone
Yeah.
an act of terror like that. This is
Yeah, no,
where
no,
freedom of
there's not.
speech
That's out
is.
of question.
Yeah, it's just
It has
not
to be.
there. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, let me take this last question. It's not only China's economy is shrinking, it's whole world economy. Aren't we being too biased when we consider China's failure? Look, Hiteshwar, let me put it there. Our economy is not shrinking. Our economy is booming. Okay, I'm in this entire analysis is not from the world point of view. This is from Indian point of view. China is my adversary. Okay, we are locked in a problem with China. So I have to view it from my point of view, first and foremost. Second, the fact is that you cannot, I'm not talking of economy in one sense. I'm talking of the skewed economic structure of China. That indicates, your question indicates to me you're not understood. You're not understood what I have put across. What I'm trying to say, and this is my thing, that the economic structure of China is skewed. That economic structure of China limits Chinese growth. Economy will remain big, but it is not growing. That's what the first slide I showed you, that the Chinese economy will never overtake the US economy. And beyond 2030, the fall will be steep because they're not people. At the end of the day, AI doesn't make economy. Okay. Quantum doesn't make economy. Quantum and all is tomorrow's technology. It's started on, it's only still in very experimental stages. So, to be clear, when you look at China, if you look at only one angle, then you are misled. And that is what China has done for the past 40 years. It has forced you to look at from one angle only. But when you look at it from all directions, when you look at it from a multipolar view, you find that the Chinese whole pie is shrinking. Okay, that is the point. Okay, I think we have finished. Any views of yours, Shriji? Otherwise, we can wrap up.
No, General Ravi Shankar, I think you've very succinctly put it. And there's much food for thought, guys. I would encourage you to go back and watch this thing a few times. General Ravi Shankar has packed a lot of information here. In fact, I'm going to do it myself too. Why I say these things is, you see, he's picked it up from 360 degrees, from various viewpoints, looking at China, from Japan, from US, from internal Chinese data. I have a little bit of insights into what is happening in China also, and I'm seeing that I have not, I've not been aware of 90% of what has been told in this presentation. So, for anyone who wants to get real knowledge about what is China, I would highly encourage you to go back to episode of this series, 1 and 2, 3 now, and then we will most likely cover 4, 5, and 6 together. So that way, you
Yeah,
guys
yeah,
have
we'll do
a
it.
full, yeah, we'll have a full understanding of what is going on. So thank you once again, General Ravi Shankar, for being so generous to offer your channel to be
No, 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 no
broadcast also
problem.
on our channel.
Yeah, let me take this. Yeah, City of Joy. General Ravi Shankar is not all aware of our government incapability. My dear friend, City of Joy, you are living in dream world because for 40 years I was part of the government. I have not, okay, and I was a Director General of the Indian Artillery, so I know exactly what our government capability or incapability is. And if you don't have trust in your own government, okay, then I don't know, if you are a bot, it's a different story. Then you shouldn't be asking such questions. You should be going and sitting in somewhere like patila rakh ke baith jao. Because I don't like anyone talking ill of my government, especially when it is doing well for the nation. Okay, we have a very good Prime Minister who's doing his heart out for the nation, and the kind of progress this nation has gone through. You don't know. I don't know your age also. If you are old and you have not seen the change in India, then you're an old fool. If you are young, there's a lot to learn about India which you don't know. Learn about India before you talk like this. Okay? I mean, I get angry when someone talks ill of India without knowing. Right. I think we'll close it, Shriji.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Sorry, I was a little emotional because it concerns my country. As simple as that.
No, 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 sir. I completely understand, sir. I agree with you. Every time I come once every 3 months, but I see more growth. I'm stunned.
Growth.
I mean, there are so many things. Sir, one simple thing. Let's take it away. For the longest time, viewers, I've been coming to India regularly from like 1995. That's when we started our India operations, and I used to more or less run the whole thing from US as well as from India. So when in those days, General Ravi Shankar, I could take only one thing and see it through. By the end of the day, I'll get done with that. Today, I'm able to do 5 tasks in a day, 5 tasks in a day. And this despite a much higher congestion on the roads and many other
Yeah.
constraints. What you have to find out is where are the smooth points where you can get things done. That is the research that you need to do for yourself. If I use this particular workflow method, I'll get a lot of things done. Once you have figured out, India is now much, much more easier and faster to deal with. So this has been my
Look, I
discovery.
yeah, there's no doubt at all. I just want to show you something. You know what this is? App is this is the digital rupee. This is the digital rupee. It is by State Bank. It is by almost all banks today. Slowly, India is going into the digital rupee, which is not there even in USA, incidentally.
Yes, yes, yes.
So
US is
don't
very hesitant.
don't think, yeah, yeah. We by far have the highest number of digital transactions in the world. People don't know, but that's the fact. And last but not the least, you have to, City of Joy, please come to my channel and listen to my talks about China. You will change. And you listen to my talks about India, you will change. In this very channel with Free IRG, 3 years back when we started this story, he asked me a question: will China come back and attack India? When everyone was saying China is going to run over India, the X, Y, Z. I told him then it will not come back. It will not have the guts to come back. It does not come back. China sees more in India than we see ourselves in more in India. Something you people we must understand. Yeah, I think we've done so. It will only
Yes,
be
thank you.
emoting otherwise. Yeah.
Yeah,
Thanks a lot. Good evening and wanakam and sat sri akal, whatever it is. And all of you, please subscribe to P Gurus. Please subscribe to Ghana Shot. And we're going to do more of these joint episodes.
thank you,
Thanks a
sir.
lot.